It's been a year since I last worked on this Dreamcast. So it gets to the Dreamcast screen, and dealing with that, the discs now spin, but no matter what I did, this thing does not read discs, ever, to even save its life. So I picked up this GDEMU clone on eBay, and the SD card I got at a local Best Buy. So I already have the modem out, all 4 screws out of the console. Just pull the lid back off. One thing to note, it will only work with Revision 1 consoles, and how to tell that is if there's a little circle with a 1 in it. I got the thing apart here. There is 1, 2, and 3 screws holding the GD-Rom to the circuit board, and that just lifts up. Probably shouldn't do this one-handedly. Now, the thing about Revision 1 consoles is the controller board for the Samsung drive is within the unit. It's a whole unit. Later revisions had the drive controller integrated into the motherboard. So installation, you just press the GD-Rom replacement emulator right into the socket. One thing to do while you have your Dreamcast open is replace the clock battery. For ease of use, download GDEMU and place it in a folder named 01 and renaming the GDI file to disk. You're also going to need to do this for every game in its own number folder. Now I've got the console all back together. I got an SD card in the GDEMU. Gonna fire this thing up. So GDEMU has to be in the disk 1 folder because when you turn the Dreamcast on, the GDEMU always defaults to disk 1. So here we are in the menu screen. I got a couple of discs loaded onto the SD card. I got Resident Evil, both discs, Grand Theft Auto 2. See, I can turn the boot intro off every time I load a disc in. Sega license, region free first VGA, system info. See, it just gives you the firmware and the Dreamcast revision number. Not every Dreamcast game, but some of them had little discs, images of its own disc embedded within the disc itself. So, like the Crazy Taxi artwork, South Park Rally, and South Park Chef's Love Shack artwork. See, I'll play Great Escape. The thing about GDEMU is every time you select a game, it resets the Dreamcast and goes through the boot sequence. The one thing you're going to notice about the GDEMU is, since it's solid state and not a moving disc, is how reduced the load times are. Now say if you're playing Resident Evil, Code Veronica, or Shamu, you need to have the discs right next to each other, the images of the discs right next to each other on the SD card. Say like folder 2, 3, 4. There's a little button on the GDEMU card. Every time you press it, it goes down a disc. So if you press it while you're on disc 3, it'll go to disc 4. So say like Code Veronica disc 1 is disc 3 on the SD card, so when you press it, disc 4 will load to disc 2 of Code Veronica, if this makes any sense. So here are my thoughts. It's more reliable than these GD-Rom drives. I mean, you can try changing their laser head, but you have a very uphill battle with one. Now, you're no longer going to have moving discs, and so that's a bonus since you won't be hearing the disk drive anymore. Also, one more thing, with the extra space now, you might as well get a plastic trim to stick in there. With everything solid state now, you won't have disk read error, and you have significantly reduced load times, so that's one thing to consider. You can also play games that never got released, like the Dreamcast port of Half-Life, You can even play import games with a GDEMU. Take my advice, once your GD-Rom drive starts acting up, just stick a GDEMU in it. Don't bother fixing the drive. It ain't gonna ever work again.